So how should you act or behave in your student visa interview? This video answers that question and provides some tips that are about letting your personality come through. Because I think that sometimes can be the extra spice or the secret sauce that can increase your chances of a good interview and hopefully visa approval. So something like a little pep talk on doing just that. Hi, I'm Soyuna Tag. I'm an attorney and one of the founders of Adam Law Group. We release videos about the law, including immigration. If this is of interest to you and you want to know more about how the law can serve you, please subscribe. So our videos tend to be more about specific legal requirements, along with my advice or recommendations based on my experience as an immigration attorney. But this one is more about the soft skills, about how you communicate and come across to a consular officer at the visa interview. This is important because this very short person-to-person interview is the primary vehicle determining your eligibility for the student visa. And what I mean is, this is different than visa interviews for other categories of visas. So for example, if you're doing an E2 visa interview, you already submitted a humongous packet and the officer has already had a chance to review the information you've provided before the interview. And this is again different from even an H-1B visa interview, where now it's not the consular officer, but another arm of U.S. immigration, USCIS, has already reviewed the petition package that your employer has sent in, and they've approved that petition, which also changes the scope of the interview a bit. But here, it's really not those documents because the officer really has not had a chance to review any other than kind of the generic, visa, non-immigrant visa form. So, and by the way, you should definitely prepare supporting documents, for sure, just in case. But here, the officer has no obligation whatsoever during this very short interview to review any of those documents. So it's really about this person-to-person interaction where the officer is trying to assess your credibility and are you believable? The reality is that officers do, many of these interviews, and the decision whether to approve or deny you can be made in just a few very short minutes. I'll likely do other videos about the typical visa interview questions for the F1, the documents, and the legal criteria. But here the assumption is that you are indeed qualified for this F1 visa and you are looking to do all you can to, put forth your best self at that short visa interview. Try not to feel or look overly nervous. So I'm talking about your psychology. Most people are, of course, a bit nervous. You don't do this every day, and how can someone say, don't be nervous at all? I mean, your current future plans really hinge on this interview. But what I would advise is to turn and focus that nervous energy into excitement or enthusiasm. Because you are clearly bold in your own way. I mean, you are seeking to go to another country to get the education and experience that you want. So embrace that, be confident, and smile. Not in a fake way, because that's really off-putting too, but because this is super exciting, and have faith that your truth will come across to the officer. So along those lines, there's no need for small talk. This is not a social occasion or networking event or something, so this is really not the place for it. And that can make you sound extra nervous, in fact, and probably even kind of fake. So basically, remember that the officer has many interviews, so be respectful of their time and let them run the interview and let them ask the questions and know, here's my opening statement, let me give you my history. That would not be appropriate. Now, the next thing I'm going to say might sound like a contradiction, but it's really not, because you should definitely insert your personality when you are answering those questions. So, and by your personality, I mean the positive parts, because we all have more positive parts and some less positive parts. So, in answering the questions, this is where you get to be not just another anonymous, applicant in a sea of faces, but this is where, and it's human nature. It would be harder for an officer to deny someone that they connected or sympathize with versus just another anonymous someone. So, and this goes directly to help establish your credibility. So in order to do this, do not recite a script. You know that tends to sound kind of boring and unnatural. And worse yet, that can just strip that credibility and truth right out. So don't do that. But this doesn't mean you shouldn't be prepared. Of course, definitely really deeply think about your responses. And, for example, to the typical question of like, why did you pick this school in particular, or, whatever it may be. And you should totally, in fact, practice, responding and saying, your answers. Think of it this way. It's like, there's a story you might have told many times to like family and friends, and you know the story so well that you're absolutely comfortable and you can actually be more present and focused on your audience when you're telling this story. So similarly, you should be really comfortable in answering those questions. And but then this way you can really be present in that interview and hopefully, connect in that short time period with the officer in some way. Also, do make your responses authentic. And you can do that by being, first of all, truthful. Obviously, nothing kills your credibility like lying. And you do have to remember that a bunch of the questions the officer is asking, they already see the answers and know the answers to that on their screen. So, it never pays to lie, tell the truth. Also, make sure that your responses are very specific to you. No generic canned answers. So even if someone says, say this because this works for sure, believe me, the officer has probably heard that specific, response many, many, many times, and it won't sound credible, and it'll probably, in fact, make them doubt you more. So don't do that. Now, this means, again, to make your response specific to you, of course, you really have to think about it and know your answer and practice it and be comfortable in delivering your response. And by the way, I know a bunch of students, for example, going into undergrad in the US, who probably would not have very eloquent answers to the typical questions asked at the visa interview. But, they don't need to. For you, because you have the issue of US immigration involved, you do need to really be prepared and think through, your reasons why you're, studying this field or coming to this school and, the typical questions. And really though, it's not bad because I think it only makes you stronger. This is actually good for you to be so focused like that. By being your authentic self, you'll be more engaging, which will help with the interview and establishing your credibility. Hopefully by preparing for and doing the interview with these tips and this pep talk in mind, you'll allow your personality to shine through and you'll be on your way to school in the United States. If you found this helpful, please like the video, and for more like it, please subscribe. Also, please feel free to leave any comments below about topics that you'd like us to cover, because we're definitely looking at those as we consider future videos. And lastly, we just launched Simvisa. Simvisa is a service that's a DIY and more affordable option for doing certain immigration filings, at least as compared to working directly with an attorney. So if you or someone you know may be interested, the link will be below. So I wish you the best of luck on your educational journey to the United States, and have a wonderful rest of your day.